It said recording in progress. I don't see anybody in the Zoom tonight, but hello, just in case. Okay. And unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000,000,000 kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Bhagavata's words. Well, good evening. Good evening. Let me just pull this up. And I would like to thank everyone who participated in setting up the computer tonight. So happy spring equinox to everyone. A time of balance and a time when light and dark have equal opportunity. In the midst of dark days within, it's hard not to have a moment of rejoicing in the blossoms and the little buds and the faint green aura around those dark tree scaffolds. A beautiful time of year. So I want to continue our practice of honoring women ancestors. And, you know, I love to sing, our women ancestors, known and unknown, whose shining practice guides us to this day. It's so beautiful. And when I think about how long it was that women ancestors were not known and were not honored, and I'm so grateful to the people who have taken trouble to both research and bring these ideas forward. Tonight, I want to talk about another woman ancestor who we meet in the Therigatha, the book of collected poems from early Buddhist women. Ken, can you hear me? Okay, thanks. So Baddha Kundalakesa is the name of the person I'm going to talk about. She was Baddha, a woman who lived in Magadha around 500 BCE. So a little geographic reference here found in our Oryoki chant. Buddha was born in Kapilavastu and enlightened in Magadha, and she was right there. She has a story that some of us have heard before, always worth another telling, as far as I'm concerned. As ever, I owe a big thank you to Kathy Fisher, my friend and my teacher, for introducing me to her. Baddha was born to a family of means, and the story goes that she was pampered by her parents, but also protected because of her deeply passionate and spontaneous nature. One day she observed a thief who was being led to the gallows, and she instantly fell in love with him and entreated her father to persuade the local judicial authority to pardon this man, and he was able to do that. So they got married. And soon the chosen groom began to show a very strong interest in Baddha's jewelry. He convinced her that they needed to go to a special place to make an atonement for all the things that he had done badly, and that he would, as a sacrifice to the gods, throw the jewels off the cliff in a gesture of renunciation. Well, what next? He tried to throw Baddha off the cliff, and she managed to embrace him and throw him off the cliff. So bye-bye jewelry. But hello remorse, hello shame, and so following the event, she found that worldly life and its trappings just held no interest to her. And she became a wandering ascetic. She wandered for a while on her own and eventually settled in as a renunciate in the Jain tradition. So just a word about Jainism. It's an Indian religion traced to about 8th century BCE, before the Common Era, and adherents to the faith take precepts: ahimsa, satya, truth; asteya, not stealing; brahmacharya, chastity, and brahmacharya, and aparigraha. So these terms will be very familiar to anybody who has studied the 8 limbs of yoga, and and then we can all see the links to our precepts. The 3 main pillars of the Jain faith are ahimsa, nonviolence; anekantavada, or anekantavada, do you know that, Chris? Non-absolutism, meaning that there's no one absolute truth; and aparigraha, or asceticism, also non-greed. So this is a very strict practice. And my lingering image of a Jain practitioner is someone who wears a mask so as to not inadvertently swallow any insects and thereby kill. Jainism is one of the oldest practices, religions that is still practiced today. So anyway, the story goes on. As a special penance, Baddha's hair was torn out at the roots when she was ordained. Her hair grew in again, and it grew in curly. So she got the name Kundalakesa, curly hair, curly head. So Baddha Kundalakesa was not satisfied eventually by the Jain doctrine, so she set out again to wander and visit other holy places. She did this for 50 years, but by the time that she had traveled through ancient India, visited many spiritual teachers, and she had a very wide-ranging knowledge base. She became one of the foremost debaters of her time. So the tradition of debate has carried on in the Mahayana school to this day, and we're a part of it in Zen. I think of debate as most notably a Tibetan tradition, and we hear stories of the Dalai Lama becoming very practiced in debate as a child. And in Zen, we come at it a little bit differently. And it seems to me it's found in 2 streams: koans and mando. And in Zen, a mando is an exchange between a disciple and a teacher. Man means question, do means answer. So some mandos are renowned and illustrate a transmission of Zen from spirit to spirit. The master's response sometimes goes further than the question. And at first may seem enigmatic or disconcerting. Some teachers conduct their dokusan this way. So if you're doing koan study, you'll go in, you'll have the question will be asked, you'll give your answer, and for quite some time, you'll probably just be run out because you didn't get it right. You have to come back and do it again. I have not practiced koan study, so I'm just telling you what I've heard. But another way of the debate lineage or the debate trace that I see is, for example, at the end of our sessions, when we have our shosan ceremony. So everybody lines up, and one at a time, we ask a question. Most of us are intimidated enough that we blurt out our question, we go through it, and it's good, and then we go back to our seat. But for some people, the question is either repeated or gone a step further. And it can be a really deep, beautiful practice. So we hear stories about the old Zen buddies, disciple and master dialogues. We hear about the tea lady and the young adept who comes and asks which way is enlightenment, and she points right straight through, and she laughs at him as he goes off and says, oh, there goes another one on his way. When in fact, perhaps she was the one. She was the one that could have given the enlightenment. We can't really know how Baddha ran her debates, but the story goes that whenever she entered a town, she would make a sand pile and put a rose apple stick in the pile. And that was the invitation that the debate was on. So at one point, and then, she'd challenge whoever was interested to a debate. If you were interested, you trample on the sand. And she always won her debates. Shariputra learned that she was in town, and he sent a group of children to trample the sand pile, and then they entered debate together. She was supremely confident of victory, since she had become accustomed to winning all of her debates. And she posed a number of questions to Shariputra. He answered all of them, and she couldn't think of any more. So his first question to her was, what is the one? What is the one? Baddha remained silent, intrigued by what he was inquiring about. She could have answered God or Brahma or the infinite. All of those would have been a good answer. But Baddha decided not to formulate an answer, and thereby lost the debate, because she knew she'd found what she'd been searching for in all those years of wandering. She asked Shariputra to be her teacher, and he said, no, I need to take you to somebody who is really going to be your teacher. And he took her to the Buddha, to Gautama Buddha. He expounded the Dharma to her at Vulture Peak, and this was the poem he finished with. And think about the fact that, talk in the debates, right? Though 1,000 verses are made of meaningless lines, better the single meaningful line, by hearing which one is at peace. was talking with Chris Burkhardt about how fascinating it is to look at the poetry of early Buddhist women and to see how contemporary it feels. And of course, this is largely due to the translators, but the thought is there, the point is there. I found this to be especially true when I first heard the following poem that is ascribed to Baddha Kundalakesa as her death poem, which was a common practice. As I said, I learned of her from Kathy Fisher, and she learned of her from a dear friend who, at the end of her life, chose this death poem to send to her friends as her goodbye. It goes like this. Here at the end, part of me wants to go back and kiss every inch of every road I've ever walked. But it is enough to say thank you and goodbye. Here at the end, part of me wants to go back and kiss every inch of every road I've ever walked. But it's enough to say thank you and goodbye. And that really wrapped it for me. So I want to go to small groups, if we would. And I've got 2 questions for you. 1 or 2, whichever you like. How do my words affect others? And how does Baddha's death poem affect you?